Today I sit somewhat perplexed because I'm someone that likes the Switch Pro controller. I always use it when playing in docked mode for instance, but the folks over at Aolion, or Aolion, sent this half-price controller to me as it retails for just about $30 and I really like it. Almost to put my Pro controller aside, to be honest. So with that said, introducing the Aolion/Aolion Switch Pro controller. Is it really worth it for half the price? Let's go ahead and dive right in. Before we continue, don't forget that I have a Twitch channel that you can go ahead and follow me on for live microphone reviews and much more than that. But you're also going to find my Twitter, my Instagram, and a link to the Tech Summit Discord in the description. So come join the community because it is a pretty cool one. We've also opened up a Patreon as of late where if you join, you'll be automatically entered to win one tech gadget every month in our exclusive giveaways. Details to that are going to be down below. Don't forget to check out the description for everything. Now let's get right into the video. So let's begin with an unboxing. It is going to be a very simple one here, since it only encompasses the opening of the box, the removal of the plastic cover, and then you're going to find the USB-C cable for charging and for data, of course, in case you want to use this wired, as well as instructions in the box. The exterior design consists of this matte plastic material that shares a lot of similarities with the Xbox One controller and the Switch Pro controller as well. It's pretty much a mixture of the two, I would say, as it takes from both systems to deliver on this design. This controller does come in a few colors, but I like this light blue color for the most part, since it is the same color as a Switch Lite, for instance, or as like the baby blue Switch Lite. And I think that this is a very nice looking controller, and there are some things that I really appreciate about its design. Things like that slightly translucent bit so that you can see if the controller is actually pairing without having to flip it over. And they've also made some of the face buttons here just a little bit smaller too. But you will also notice that the menu buttons have been rearranged, and I wholeheartedly agree with this decision. The home button is more comfortable to press now and to reach for, like you won't be hitting it by accident if you're playing with like an actual controller this time around, and that's honestly pretty cool. I do really like that positioning. And now they've also gone ahead and included a turbo button as well, so this does come with an extra function as well, and it's pretty good stuff here, and I like this design quite a lot actually. My only complaints about this controller's overall design are going to be two. So first off, this is a pretty lightweight controller, and secondly, the trigger buttons do feel a little bit mushy, but I do like this design quite a lot. I would say that there are actually two features that stand out to me here. One of them is a rumble included that allows for some pretty great vibrations here, and I really do mean that, by the way. The vibrations do feel pretty good and they're smooth, so it's not a cheap feeling experience with overdone vibrations at all like I was expecting at first. And this controller does also support motion capabilities, which is great to have, and there's also a turbo button that allows you to boost the vibration strength or reduce it if you want. And I keep it all the way up usually because I do like the vibration motors on this controller. And now I went ahead and tested out 3 different genres of games with this controller to see how much I would like it. One of those was an action game, so in this case it was Persona 5 Strikers. I didn't expect to like this controller with this game very much, but I was pleasantly surprised to see how well it performed here. The controller felt very nice to use since the sticks feel good and have a nice grip to them, I would say. But there were also the very prominent vibrations here and use of rumble in this game. It's very nicely done, it's very nicely implemented. Like, I was very pleasantly surprised with the vibration motors on this controller. The bumpers are short presses with a very noticeable spring that bounces back with quite a bit of strength. Some people really might not like that, but I didn't really mind it at all here. I thought that this controller worked very well for this genre, not necessarily better than the Pro controller here, but just as good of an experience as instead, which honestly does count for a lot, especially considering that this is only a little bit less than half of the price of the Pro controller, at least if it's still retailing for $70. And in fighting games, I started to notice myself performing better than usual. The D-pad on the Switch Pro controller is honestly, in my opinion, one of the worst ones on any mainline controller because it's really stiff and just isn't comfortable to use. I get that they were kind of trying to go for like a clicky design, but it's just not clicky at all. It is uncomfortable to press. However, this controller from Aolion has the opposite, a very soft D-pad, but not one that feels bad as a result, or mushy really, or maybe that it could feel just a bit mushy, I suppose at times. It doesn't click like the one on the Xbox One controller, but it is still pretty short travel, and I found it to be very good for this genre. The D-pad was very efficient and very easy to use for fighting games like this, which does count for a lot as well. I think that the buttons really just feel pretty good here, but I did miss the short press triggers of the Pro Controller since I felt like I was maybe just a little bit less responsive with these when needing to press these buttons in particular. These are more mushy for sure, like when it comes to the actual triggers themselves, and I don't really love the triggers on this controller, which is going to be one downside of going with this, but everything else was honestly really good here. I know that a lot of Switch players really do like to play platformers, so I didn't want to just ignore this genre either. In something like Dead Cells, I felt very comfortable using this D-pad. The differences between using this D-pad and the one on the Switch Pro controller are really night and day here, as it's just a much better experience. This feels like exactly the right controller to use for platformers, in particular because of this D-pad design. Though the sticks are honestly going to be pretty nice here as well. You're going to be getting that same concave design that you would be getting from the Xbox One controller as well, which honestly does feel pretty nice. And I found myself actually switching between the D-pad and the thumbsticks pretty often without even realizing it, which does also count for a lot. Again, this controller is just a really great performer here too. So when it comes to the battery life, you'll do pretty well here, I'd say. It's about as good as the battery on the Switch Pro in my opinion, but you do sacrifice maybe just a bit of battery with turbo mode all the way up. At least that's just what I've noticed maybe, but it really might not be that noticeable for a lot of people. So overall, I don't really have complaints about the battery life here. So would I recommend this controller instead of the Pro controller? Honestly, I really would. I think that this is a fantastic alternative since it is priced so nicely and still has a lot of the same features that the Switch Pro controller does. I don't love the triggers on this one necessarily, nor do I love the weight, but everything else about this controller reigns supreme to me. So, like, when comparing this to the Nintendo Switch Pro controller, I think this is a fantastic value and probably a better controller for a lot of people. For about 30 bucks, this is a great value, and I can see a lot of people getting this instead. And honestly, it will largely be not only because of the price tag here, but also because of the far more superior D-pad experience here, which is something that I believe the Switch Pro controller is lacking. So I do kind of prefer this controller over the Pro controller, and I would probably even go as far as recommending it over the Pro controller as well for a lot of people. Again, especially if you don't like that D-pad on the Nintendo Switch Pro controller. So with that said, strongly recommend it. And if you're interested in purchasing this controller, then I'll be making sure to leave an affiliate link down to Amazon in the description. And there's also going to be lister in case you're looking for some other alternatives or maybe just some sales on controllers like it or this controller in particular. So links to that down below if you end up using any of my links. I do get a small commission that does help with the channel quite a bit, so I'd appreciate that quite a bit. And also, don't forget that we do have the Tech Summit Patreon, which is actually a pretty cool place. By subscribing over at that Patreon, you do get the ability of participating in monthly giveaways. We have a chance of winning a tech product that we've reviewed on this channel with a value of at least 50 bucks or higher. So links to that down below if you are interested, and you also do get exclusive content there. So links to that down below, and there's also going to be a Tech Summit Discord in case you do have any questions, and the rest of my social, like my Instagram and my Twitter, as well as my Twitch, are going to be linked down below as well. So with that said, this has been Francisco from Tech Summit. Thank you for watching, and I will be seeing you all later. Enjoy.